politics, tech, climate, truth in motion. You're watching 925 Updates. Top breaking news for today. Bangladesh Air Force jet crash in Dhaka. The top breaking news for today is the tragic Bangladesh Air Force jet crash in Dhaka. On 21st July, a Bangladesh Air Force F-7 training jet crashed into the campus of a college in Dhaka shortly after takeoff, following a suspected technical fault. The crash claimed the lives of at least 19 people, with more than 170 injured, most of whom were students present in the building at the time. Emergency responders were on the scene immediately, conducting rescue operations and transferring the wounded to nearby hospitals. The Bangladesh military has announced a full investigation into possible causes, including mechanical failure and pilot response. India, among other nations, has offered support and condolences to Bangladesh. The nation remains in mourning as families and authorities address the aftermath of this rare but devastating incident. Gaza violence and humanitarian crisis. An ongoing crisis continues in Gaza, where Israeli military forces have ramped up operations. Reports confirm that dozens of Palestinians, including women and children, were killed while seeking food and other humanitarian aid amid severe shortages. In some incidents, the Gaza Health Ministry reported as many as 73 to 115 Palestinians killed around aid distribution sites. Civilian infrastructure, such as hospitals and food relief centers, remains under strain as Israeli tanks and snipers advance further into central and northern Gaza. International calls for a ceasefire, including joint statements from the UK and Germany, continue as the civilian death toll rises and the humanitarian situation worsens. The United Nations has labeled the crisis a humanitarian emergency of the highest order, with urgent appeals for safe aid corridors and conflict de-escalation. Russian drone strikes hit Kyiv. In Ukraine, the capital city Kyiv faced yet another wave of Russian drone and missile attacks. The strikes come just hours before scheduled diplomatic talks between Ukraine and allied nations over continued support. A drone hit the entrance to a subway station, causing smoke to fill the platform where dozens of civilians had taken shelter. Ukrainian authorities reported emergency operations to ventilate the station and treat the wounded. While detailed casualties are pending, the frequency and impact of such attacks have become a critical concern, especially as both sides prepare for renewed negotiations regarding ceasefire terms and aid delivery. The attacks underscore the ongoing instability and the continued risk faced by Ukrainian civilians in urban centers. Tsunami alert after Russian earthquakes. A significant geological event occurred off Russia's Kamchatka coast, where a series of 5 powerful earthquakes struck within just 1 hour. As a result, Russian authorities issued an immediate tsunami alert for the Far Eastern region, advising residents and coastal communities to prepare for possible evacuation and emergency response. The quakes ranged from moderate to severe in intensity, and seismic activity was closely monitored by both Russian and international agencies. To date, no major tsunami damages have been reported, but public and official vigilance remains high. Ferry fire in Indonesia. A large-scale emergency response took place in Indonesia after a passenger ferry caught fire at sea. Official reports indicate that at least 3 to 5 people died, while more than 575 passengers were successfully rescued by first responders. The ferry, en route between island districts, encountered rapid spreading flames, forcing hundreds of people to jump overboard. Rescue teams used boats and helicopters to evacuate survivors, with the disaster illustrating ongoing concerns over transportation safety and regulation in the region. Authorities have launched a formal probe into the cause of the fire. Severe flooding and landslides in South Korea. South Korea is grappling with deadly consequences from days of intense rainfall. Widespread flooding and landslides have resulted in at least 14 confirmed deaths across multiple provinces. Emergency crews continue to search for missing persons and provide relief to areas cut off by water and mudslides. Several thousand residents have evacuated to temporary shelters, and substantial infrastructure damage, including washed-out roads and affected housing, has been reported. The government has declared disaster zones in the hardest-hit regions and is coordinating national and military resources for rescue and reconstruction. IMF's Gita Gopinath announces resignation. In a major institutional update, Gita Gopinath, the first Deputy Managing Director and number 2 official at the International Monetary Fund, announced she will step down at the end of August to return to Harvard University. The IMF confirmed her impending departure in an official statement praising her exceptional service, especially during the global response to economic shocks in recent years. Gopinath's leadership in steering international financial policy and reforms has been widely credited for stabilizing economies during the COVID-19 pandemic. Her replacement has not yet been named, and the global financial community awaits further updates. Israel attacks Houthi targets in Yemen. The security situation in the Middle East intensified as Israeli military forces confirmed launching an attack on Yemen's Hodeidah port, a position controlled by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. According to reports, the strike targeted a dock the Israelis said was used to receive weapons and supplies. Houthi sources reported property damage but did not confirm casualties. This escalation follows several months of tensions between Israel and Houthi factions, with regional and international observers warning that any expansion of such attacks could affect broader stability in the Red Sea corridor, vital for global shipping. Judicial impeachment motion in Indian Parliament. Political news out of India centers on a high-impact judicial controversy. Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju has stated that the government plans to move an impeachment motion against a judge accused of involvement in a cash scandal with the support of 100 MPs. The decision comes amid heated debate regarding judicial integrity and the separation of powers in Indian democracy. This move represents a rare step in Indian parliamentary history and has triggered extensive commentary and analysis from legal and political experts across the country. Albania corruption trial of former Prime Minister. Albania began the corruption trial of its former Prime Minister, Sali Berisha. The trial addresses allegations of graft and abuse of power during and after Berisha's tenure at the helm of Albania's government. The opening of proceedings marks a significant moment in the country's ongoing efforts to strengthen rule of law and combat high-level corruption, with international monitors closely following the case. The outcome is expected to have lasting implications for Albania's anti-corruption campaign and its prospects for closer integration with the European Union.